The venue coordinator's voice cracked through my phone. The systems locked me out. I can't access the attendee database. I stood in the hotel lobby watching the registration desk I'd designed 6 months ago. Custom workflow, integrated check-in, real-time capacity tracking, now just expensive furniture. The young woman behind it kept refreshing her screen, her panic visible from across the marble floor. "Have you tried the backup login?" I asked, knowing exactly what she'd say. "What backup login?" I ended the call. My hands weren't shaking. That surprised me. 8 months of work, and I felt nothing except a strange clarity, like finally understanding a joke everyone else had laughed at hours ago. The elevator doors opened. Portia emerged wearing the blazer I'd complimented last week. The one she said made her feel powerful. She saw me, and her expression shifted into something I'd never seen before. Satisfaction mixed with pity. "You're still here?" "Just leaving." "Good." She adjusted her conference badge, the VIP one with the gold stripe I'd designed for speakers and organizers. "This'll be better without the confusion. Fresh perspective, you know?" I didn't know. But before I could continue, "I need you to do something for me. If you've ever felt invisible at work, ever watched someone take credit while you stood there silently, hit that like button, drop a comment telling me the worst excuse you've heard for being excluded, and subscribe, because what happens next, what I did from that cafe across the street, you won't believe until you hear it." Now, back to that moment. My name is Celeste. I'm 34, chronically early to everything, and I've never learned how to network properly because I'd rather solve problems than discuss them. People find me intense. I find people inefficient. For 8 months, that intensity built the Regional Sustainable Packaging Summit from a conference room argument into something real. I joined the association as events manager in January. The summit was dying, attendance down 40%, sponsors vanishing, speakers recycling the same presentations they'd given for 5 years. My predecessor had treated it like a formality, a calendar obligation. I treated it like architecture. First, I eliminated the generic venue, those soulless hotel ballrooms that smell like yesterday's coffee and broken dreams. I found a converted warehouse with exposed brick and natural light, the kind of space that made people want to stay, to connect, to actually listen. The venue owner, an older woman named Dottie who'd survived 3 recessions, quoted me a price I couldn't afford. "What if we showcase your space?" I'd proposed. "Every attendee gets a booklet featuring your renovation story, sustainable packaging professionals who might need event spaces, free advertising to 1,200 industry decision makers." She'd studied me for a long moment. "You really think you can get 1,200 people?" "I really do." We got 1,400 registered. Then came the speakers. I cold called the woman who'd revolutionized biodegradable film technology in South Korea. She'd never presented outside Asia. I called her 17 times across 4 months. On the 18th call, I didn't pitch the summit. I asked about her research. We talked for 90 minutes. She agreed to keynote. I recruited 46 other speakers using the same approach, genuine interest instead of transactional requests. I researched their work, asked intelligent questions, showed them why this summit mattered, not for attendance numbers, for actual impact. Sponsors came next. I didn't want their money for generic banner placements. I wanted partnerships. I matched each sponsor with programming that aligned with their values. The manufacturer focused on recycled materials. They sponsored the Innovation Showcase. The company developing compostable alternatives. They funded the workshop series on waste reduction. Every sponsor felt seen. Every dollar had purpose. Portia had joined our team in month 5, transferred from membership services. Bright, enthusiastic, eager to learn. I'd trained her on everything: the vendor relationships, the speaker agreements, the sponsor expectations. She absorbed information like someone preparing for a test, always taking notes, always asking follow-up questions. "You're so organized," she'd said once, watching me update the master timeline. "How do you keep track of everything?" "Systems," I'd told her. "Everything connects. You just have to see the whole picture." She'd nodded, writing that down too. By month 7, Portia was handling smaller logistics, volunteer coordination, supply orders, minor vendor communications. She was good at it. Friendly, where I was direct. Warm, where I was efficient. People liked her immediately. "You two make a great team," my supervisor had mentioned during a check-in. "Portia's people skills, your execution ability, perfect balance." I'd agreed. I'd actually believed it. 3 weeks before the summit, Portia asked to review the master file, the central document containing every contract, every contact, every critical detail. Just want to make sure I understand the full scope, she'd explained, in case you need backup during the event. I'd sent it to her. Why wouldn't I? We were a team. 2 weeks before the summit, she'd started arriving early, leaving late. Learning from the best, she'd joked. I'd found it flattering. 1 week before the summit, my supervisor called me into his office. We need to discuss some concerns. About what? Portia mentioned you've been making decisions without proper approval, committing to expenses beyond your authority. She's worried about liability. My spine straightened. Every expense has been documented and approved. You've signed off on everything. She says the documentation's been revised after the fact. That's not true. I'm not accusing you of anything. Just let's have Portia take lead on the final week. Give us all some confidence everything's properly handled. I should have fought harder, but I was tired. 8 months of 16-hour days, of solving problems nobody else noticed, of caring more than anyone else in the building. Part of me wanted someone else to carry it for a few days. Fine. That meeting was 6 days ago. Yesterday, Portia had called me at home. Hey, quick question. What's the login for the catering platform? I'd given it to her. And the speaker portal access? I'd sent that too. You're a lifesaver. Get some rest tonight. Big day tomorrow. This morning, I'd arrived at the venue 2 hours early. Like always. The security guard I'd worked with for months, setting up his break schedule, making sure he got fed during long event days, looked uncomfortable when he saw me. Ma'am, I need to see your badge. I'll get it from registration. Ma'am, I have instructions. You're not on the approved list. The world tilted slightly. That's impossible. I'm the organizer. I just follow the list. He'd shown me his tablet. My name wasn't there. Portia's was. Listed as lead event director. That's when she'd appeared, wearing my VIP badge design, carrying the tablet I'd ordered, standing in the lobby I'd transformed. Management made some adjustments last minute, she'd said, her voice gentle like she was explaining something to a confused child. We thought it'd be simpler if I handled the on-site execution. You've done so much already. Time to let someone else take the finish line. My supervisor had materialized beside her. This isn't personal. We just need to ensure everything runs smoothly. Too many cooks. You understand. I'd understood nothing except that I was being erased. They'd escorted me out, professionally, politely, like I was a vendor whose services were no longer required. I'd sat in my car for 20 minutes, watching people arrive for setup, my volunteers, my vendors, my speakers, all walking past me into the building where I no longer existed. Then I'd opened my laptop. The master file I'd sent Portia, it was complete, but it wasn't everything. What she didn't know, I'd built redundancies into every system, not because I was paranoid, but because I'd learned that single points of failure destroy projects. Every critical function had a secondary access point. Every important relationship had a personal connection beyond the institutional one. And every single one of those access points required me. Not because I designed it that way intentionally, but because I was the person who'd built the relationships, earned the trust, made the promises. You can steal someone's documentation. You can't steal their credibility. I sent one message, not to my supervisor, not to Portia, to Dottie, the venue owner. Are you aware that someone modified our agreement without my knowledge? The marketing package we discussed isn't in the current contract. Just wanted to confirm before I follow up with my legal contact. I didn't have a legal contact, but Dottie didn't know that. Her response came in 4 minutes. What? Nobody told me anything changed. I need to speak with you immediately. I called her. I'm not on site today. Management decided to handle things differently. Handle what differently? You're the one I made the deal with. Your word, not some management team I've never met. I understand, but I'm not involved anymore. Then we have a problem. I hung up and drove to the cafe across from the venue. Large window, perfect view of the main entrance. I ordered chamomile tea and waited. 14 minutes later, my supervisor appeared outside the venue, phone pressed to his ear. He was pacing. Even from across the street, I could see the tension in his shoulders. My phone buzzed. His name. I let it go to voicemail. 2 minutes after that, Portia appeared in the doorway, scanning the street like she was looking for someone. Her phone was out. She was typing frantically. My phone buzzed again. Her name this time. I declined the call and took another sip of tea. The summit was supposed to begin setup at 9. By 9:30, nothing was happening. The catering trucks sat in the loading zone, drivers standing around smoking, nobody directing them where to go. The audiovisual team had arrived but couldn't access the equipment storage because I'd arranged that access personally with Dottie, and she'd apparently locked everything down until she spoke with me. By 10, the volunteers started arriving. I watched them cluster near the registration desk, confused, checking their phones. I'd recruited each of them personally, mostly students from the local university's environmental program. I'd promised them networking opportunities, professional references, real experience. They'd trusted me. Now they were standing in a lobby with no leadership, no direction, no purpose. One of them, Kiana, a junior who wanted to work in event sustainability, separated from the group and walked outside. She pulled out her phone, and 30 seconds later, mine rang. I answered, "Celeste? It's Kiana. Something's really wrong here. Nobody knows what they're supposed to be doing. Portia keeps saying she has it under control, but the catering people are threatening to leave, and someone said the keynote speaker is refusing to confirm her session. Are you not here?" "I'm not." "Why?" "Good question." I still didn't fully understand the answer. "Management decision." "That's insane. You built this whole thing." Her voice dropped. "We all know that. Everyone knows. It'll be fine. Portia's capable." Portia's panicking. She just yelled at one of the AV techs for asking about the presentation setup. This isn't fine. I watched through the cafe window as Portia emerged again, this time talking to someone I recognized, the sponsor relations coordinator from the biodegradable film company. His arms were crossed. Body language, unhappy. "I have to go," I told Kiana. "Good luck today." "Wait." I ended the call. My phone immediately buzzed with a text from the keynote speaker, the woman I'd called 18 times, the researcher who'd trusted me enough to fly 14 hours for this event. "I was told you're not managing the summit anymore. Is this true? Our agreement was based on your personal guarantee about the format and audience quality. I need clarification before I proceed." I stared at that message for a long time. This was the moment. I could confirm I was out, release her from any obligation, let the whole thing collapse. They'd lose their keynote. The sponsor who'd paid premium placement specifically to be associated with her session would pull out. The entire first day would fall apart. I typed, "Yes, there have been organizational changes. I recommend you do what feels right for your professional integrity." Not quite confirmation, not quite sabotage, just honesty. Her response, "Understood. I'll wait to hear from you directly before making any commitments," which meant she wasn't going on that stage unless I told her to. 11 o'clock. The venue's main doors should have been open for final setup verification. They were still closed. A line of delivery trucks now stretched down the block. I counted 6 vendor representatives standing in a cluster, all on their phones, all looking increasingly agitated. My supervisor appeared again, practically running to his car. He drove off. 15 minutes later, he pulled up in front of the cafe. He came inside, found me at my window table, sat down without asking. "Fix this." "Fix what?" "You know exactly what." His face was flushed. "Dottie won't unlock the building. The caterer won't unload without your authorization. The keynote speaker won't confirm. The AV company says their contract specifies you as the point of contact for technical requirements. Even the transportation service is asking for you. Sounds like poor planning. This is childish. This is consequence." I kept my voice level. "You removed the person who built every relationship, negotiated every contract, earned every bit of trust. Those relationships don't transfer just because you want them to." Portia said she could handle it. "Portia has a copy of my files. She doesn't have my credibility." I paused. "What exactly did she tell you about me?" He looked away. "That you were cutting corners, making unauthorized commitments, that the budget was out of control because of your overspending. And you believed her. She had evidence, emails, expense reports with discrepancies. Did you ask me about any of it?" His silence was the answer. "She revised those reports," I said quietly. "Changed dates, altered amounts, made it look like I was hiding things. I wasn't. Every single expense was approved through proper channels. You signed off on most of them yourself." "Why would she do that?" "Because she wanted my job, and the easiest way to get it was to make me look incompetent." I finished my tea. "Congratulations, you helped her succeed." He sat there, processing. Outside, the chaos was growing. A news crew had arrived, probably tipped off about the industry's biggest annual summit, expecting professional coverage. Instead, they were filming a parking lot full of confused vendors and a locked venue. "What do you want?" he finally asked. I want you to tell me exactly what happened in the meeting where you decided to exclude me. He exhaled. Portia came to me 4 days ago, said she'd been reviewing the contracts and found irregularities, said you'd been making promises the organization couldn't keep, said she was worried about legal exposure. What promises? The venue marketing package, the speaker travel upgrades, the sponsor activation spaces. She said none of it was properly documented. It was all documented in the master agreement file. Did you look at it? She showed me her version. It didn't include those provisions. Her version, not the original contracts. His face changed, understanding dawning slowly, like sunrise through fog. She removed those provisions from her copy, I continued. Made it look like I'd promised things without authorization, then convinced you I was a liability. Jesus. Then she got access to all my login credentials, changed permissions, locked me out of the systems I'd built, and positioned herself as the hero who'd step in to save everything. But she can't save it. No, because she doesn't actually know how anything works. She knows what I documented. She doesn't know the relationships, the handshake agreements, the personal promises. She doesn't know that Dottie and I spent 6 hours talking about her granddaughter's environmental science project, or that the keynote speaker and I bonded over both being the only women in our graduate programs. She doesn't know that the head caterer gave me a discount because I helped him get a contract with another organization. She has my files. She doesn't have my history. He put his head in his hands. How do we fix this? We don't. I do, if I choose to. Name your terms. This was it. The revenge moment everyone expects. The dramatic list of demands. The power play. But sitting there, watching this man realize how thoroughly he'd been manipulated, I felt something unexpected. Not satisfaction. Exhaustion. I need to think, I said. We have 1,400 people arriving in 19 hours. Then you should probably hope I think quickly. I left him sitting there and walked out. I drove to the botanical gardens 20 minutes outside the city. No phone signal, just greenhouses and silence. For 3 hours, I sat on a bench surrounded by orchids and thought about what I actually wanted. Revenge? I already had it. Portia was drowning in front of everyone who mattered. My supervisor knew he'd been played. The entire organization was learning in real time what happens when you discard the person who holds everything together. I could walk away, let it collapse, prove my point so thoroughly that nobody would ever question my value again. But 1,400 people had registered because they believed in what I'd built. Researchers presenting findings for the first time. Students hoping to break into the industry. Small business owners who'd scraped together registration fees because they needed the connections. None of them deserved to suffer because of Portia's ambition and management's stupidity. And then there was me, the person who'd poured 8 months into creating something meaningful. Did I really want to watch it die, just to prove I was right? My phone buzzed in my bag. No signal, but I had 1 bar near the entrance. 17 missed calls. 43 texts. One was from Kiana. Please come back. People are crying. The volunteers are leaving. This is awful. One was from Dottie. I don't care what corporate politics are happening. You gave me your word about this event. I need to know if you're standing behind it. One was from the keynote speaker. I've received 3 different stories about what's happening. I only trust yours. Call me. And one was from a number I didn't recognize. This is Portia's supervisor. We need to talk. Today. I drove back to the cafe. Made 1 call first. Dottie, it's Celeste. Finally. What the hell is going on? I was removed from the summit. Without warning, someone I trained decided she wanted my role and convinced management I was a problem. Silence. Then, are you a problem? No, didn't think so. You're the first event planner in 15 years who actually kept every promise. So what happens now? That depends. Are you willing to unlock the venue if I personally guarantee everything we agreed to? Are you back in charge? Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I can make sure your venue gets what I promised. Another pause. Your word? My word. Then we have a deal. Same as before. Send me confirmation in writing, and I'll open the building. I hung up and called the keynote speaker. It's Celeste. Thank goodness. What's happening? I told her everything. The betrayal, the lockout, the chaos. I didn't sugarcoat it. So you're asking me to present at an event that fired you. I'm asking you to present at an event that needs you. The organization made a mistake. The audience didn't. They registered because they want to hear you speak. That hasn't changed. But you won't be there. I don't know yet, but your session is at 2 tomorrow. Whether I'm there or not, those people deserve to hear what you have to say. She was quiet for a long moment. If you give me your word that the format and audience quality match what we discussed, I'll honor our agreement. You have my word. Then I'll be there. Next, I called the catering company, then the AV team, then the transportation service. Same conversation, different details. I gave my personal guarantee that everything we'd agreed to would happen. Not the organization's guarantee, mine. Every single vendor accepted. By the time I'd finished, it was nearly 6. The cafe was closing. I sat in my car and called the number I didn't recognize. This is Celeste. Finally, the voice was female, older, authoritative. I'm the VP of Operations, Portia's supervisor's supervisor. We need to meet. Tonight. Where? My office. Now, the association's headquarters was downtown. I'd been there maybe 5 times in 8 months. Most of my work happened at vendor sites, speaker meetings, the venue itself. The VP's office was on the 4th floor. She was waiting when I arrived, a woman in her 60s with silver hair and the kind of presence that comes from decades of not tolerating nonsense. Sit. I sat. I've spent the last 4 hours reviewing every contract, every email, every expense report related to the summit. Want to know what I found? Sure. That you're either the most brilliant event planner we've ever employed, or you've orchestrated an elaborate fraud. And given that every vendor I called spoke about you like you personally saved their business, I'm leaning toward brilliant. She pulled up a spreadsheet on her monitor. Your budget projections were 42% more accurate than any event in our 10-year history. Your vendor retention rate is 96%. Your speaker satisfaction scores from preliminary surveys are the highest we've ever recorded. You brought in 3 new sponsorship categories we'd never secured before. Okay, so explain to me why my staff reported you as a liability. I explained. All of it. Portia's manipulation, the altered documents, the systematic lockout. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. Why didn't you come to me when this started? I didn't know it was starting. By the time I realized what was happening, I was already banned from the venue. And today? Why didn't you just let it burn? Because 1,400 people trusted what I built. She studied me. Not because you wanted leverage? I have leverage. I'm sitting in your office at 7 p.m. the night before your flagship event. I wanted to know if the organization was worth saving. And? Still deciding. She almost smiled. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to go home, get some sleep, and show up tomorrow at 6 a.m. as the Director of Summit Operations. New title, new salary bracket, new reporting structure, directly to me. Portia is being placed on administrative leave pending an investigation. Your former supervisor is being reassigned. That's not what I want. Her eyebrows rose. No? I want Portia to stay on the summit, as my assistant. You're joking. I'm not. She wanted to learn how to run major events. She'll learn by watching me fix everything she broke, by apologizing personally to every vendor she confused, by spending the next 3 days understanding exactly how much work goes into making something look effortless. That's cruel. That's educational. I met her eyes. And when the summit is over, when every attendee has left happy and every vendor has been paid and every speaker has been thanked, then you can decide what happens to her. But tomorrow, she works for me. Those are my terms. The VP was quiet for a long moment. Then she extended her hand. Deal. I shook it. One question, she said. The email you sent that started all this. The one that made everyone panic. What did it actually say? I asked Dottie if she was aware of changes to our agreement. That's it? That's it. Everything else was already broken. I just stopped holding it together. I went home, set my alarm for 5 a.m., laid out my clothes, not the outfit I'd planned for tomorrow, but something different. Something that felt less like proving myself and more like knowing myself. The summit started at 9. I arrived at 6 to find Portia already there, standing outside the now unlocked venue. She looked like she hadn't slept. When she saw me, something flickered across her face. Relief, fear, shame, all mixed together. I'm sorry, she said. I know. I know that too. Get inside. We have 3 hours to verify that every system is functional. She followed me in. For the next 3 hours, she watched me work. Watched me greet every vendor by name, ask about their kids, remember details from conversations we'd had months ago. Watched me solve problems she didn't know existed. Watched me turn chaos into choreography. At 8:30, the keynote speaker arrived. She saw me and smiled. There you are. Here I am. I heard what happened, what you did. I just kept my promises. No, she said. You built something that mattered enough to fight for. That's different. The doors opened at 9. 1,400 people flooded in. The registration system I'd designed worked flawlessly. The volunteers I'd trained knew exactly what to do. The sponsors found their activations perfect. The speakers found their rooms ready. By noon, I'd received messages from 3 industry publications asking to feature the summit. By 2, the keynote session had a waiting list. By 5, attendees were already registering for next year. Portia worked beside me the entire time. She didn't complain, didn't make excuses, just learned. At 7, when the first day ended and the venue emptied, she found me doing final walkthroughs. Can I ask you something? Sure. Why didn't you let me fail? I considered that, because you failing meant everyone else failed too, and they didn't deserve that. Like, I don't deserve your help. Probably not, but maybe you'll deserve it eventually. That's how growth works. She nodded, turned to leave, stopped. For what it's worth, I'll never forget what you could have done to me today. Good, don't. The summit ran for 3 days. Flawless. On the final evening, the VP found me during the closing reception. Attendance up 32%. Sponsorship revenue up 48%. Speaker applications for next year already incoming. You built something remarkable. We built something remarkable. Don't be modest. Everyone here knows who made this happen. She paused, including the person who tried to take credit. Portia had spent 3 days watching me receive thanks, recognition, respect, watching vendors hug me, watching speakers seek me out, watching attendees stop me to say the summit changed their perspective on the industry. She'd wanted my job. Now she understood what the job actually was. What happens to her? I asked. That's up to you. You're her supervisor now. I found Portia breaking down the registration desk. She saw me and straightened. I'm keeping you on my team, I said. Probationary status. You'll assist on every event for the next year. You'll learn how to build relationships instead of stealing credit. And if you ever manipulate documentation again, I'll personally ensure you never work in this industry. Clear? Clear. Good. Tomorrow morning, you're going to draft personal apology letters to every vendor whose time you wasted. I'll review them before they're sent. She nodded. I walked away, not because I'd forgiven her, but because I'd decided she was worth the education. 2 months later, I'm still director of Summit Operations. The association just approved my proposal for 3 new industry events. Portia is still my assistant. She's better at the work than she was at the manipulation. My former supervisor requested a transfer to a different department. I approved it. And Dottie? Her venue has hosted 4 events since the summit, all because attendees saw her space and wanted it for themselves. She sent me a fruit basket with a note. You kept your word. Rare thing these days. I kept that note. People ask me if I regret not burning it all down, if I wish I'd been harsher, more dramatic, more definitively victorious. But here's what I learned. The best revenge isn't destruction. It's building something so valuable that removing you from it proves impossible. It's being so good at what you do that people learn the hard way what happens when you're not there. They didn't ban me from a conference. They banned themselves from competence. And when I came back as someone they couldn't afford to lose again. That's the revenge nobody sees coming. The kind that doesn't end with you walking away victorious. The kind that ends with you walking back in, more powerful than before, teaching the person who betrayed you exactly how much they never understood. Portia learned, management learned, everyone learned, and me? I learned that sometimes the greatest victory isn't proving you were wronged, it's proving you were right. If this story hit differently than you expected, if you've ever been erased from something you built, leave a comment about how you handled it. Hit subscribe because I'm just getting started with stories about what happens when underestimated people stop playing nice. And like this, if you believe the best revenge is becoming too valuable to erase. Thanks for listening.